Welcome to the next episode of Takeoff with Wellnesstory. And this one is a special one. First of all, because we're going to talk about a trip. And secondly, because this trip was taken by a very special person. Very special person, at least to me. Jim. So before we jump in, let me just set the scene for our audience here. So we booked this trip for you that you're going to talk about in a minute. And 6 weeks before the trip, you started packing. 4 weeks before the trip, you're fully packed, including your underwear, all the gear, everything was all packed. Now, I have to say to our audience here that the one thing you should know about Jim is that he never packs more than 2 hours before the trip. And this time, 4 weeks before, you were ready to go. You were sleeping with your backpack, with your rucksack. So anyways, I'll let you tell us why this trip was so special to you.
Okay, well, there's a number of reasons. The first is that you booked it for my 55th birthday.
Yes,
so it's
yes,
quite special. The second reason is that the trip was organized by Eric Edmeades, who is the founder of WildFit, which is the nutrition program that kind of kickstarted our whole wellness journey. And Eric is a bit of a legend in Tanzania. He's climbed Mount Kilimanjaro something like 14 times. And the tribe that we were visiting, the Hadzas, he has spent a lot of time with them, and he's actually kind of an honorary member of the tribe. So we had amazing access to these folks. We stayed at their camp and went hunting with them. The third reason is, as you know, I'm a bit obsessed with human evolution.
With
and
pebbles.
Archaeology.
With rocks.
And I have quite an extensive collection of Stone Age tools and artifacts, which
Yes, I do know.
You commonly refer to as my pebble collection.
Which it is.
And as part of the trip, we visited places like the Ngorongoro crater, which is this massive volcanic caldera, which is considered to be the origin of the Garden of Eden myth.
Oh, interesting.
Because it used to be the size of Mount Kilimanjaro when it was a volcano, and it blew about 2.5 million years ago and left this huge crater, which is 260 kilometers squared, with 600-meter walls. And so you have this literal wall around the whole area. And in it, it's completely teeming with African wildlife. So it literally feels like the Garden of Eden. We also visited the Olduvai Gorge, which is considered to be the cradle of humankind because they found some of the oldest fossils and artifacts of ancient humans in this place. So I was literally like a kid in a candy shop.
Yeah, it sounds very, very interesting, and of course at home you can't stop talking about this. So I totally understand the excitement. But so how was it being with the Hadzas? Because you only had like a few days exposure, but you really immersed yourself into their daily life.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the closest thing to being in a time machine. The Hadza tribe are one of the last remaining true hunter-gatherer societies in the world. And that means that they literally live in nature. They hunt and gather their food. So every day, their task is to feed themselves effectively.
That's their job.
That's their job.
Yeah.
And so to be able to witness how we lived, or come quite close to how we lived for hundreds of thousands of years, was simply amazing. And what was incredible was that what we've written about in our book, Ready for Takeoff, about the 4 drivers of health, and this gap between our modern life and our evolutionary programming, this was actually living proof of all of those theories that we have in the book really coming to life.
That is very, very interesting. And as you mentioned, as health coaches, we talk about the 4 drivers of health all the time, the mindset, nutrition, movement, and sleep. And as you said, we wrote a book about it. We created a framework around it. So we are all about these 4 drivers of health. Is there anything that we could learn from the Hadzas about these 4 drivers of health in the context of our lives today?
Yeah, so I think in terms of mindset, the way we perceive ourselves and the world around us, I mean, these folks are truly living in the now. I mean, they are living in nature. As we said, their daily task is to survive effectively. And so their whole persona is very much there. They're not somewhere else thinking about the past or the future, but they're there. And
in the moment.
In the moment. And we saw that from the very first moment that we met them. They're incredibly warm and open people, very keen to share their culture and their lives with us. And that's not to say that they don't experience stress. And I was lucky to witness acute moments of stress for them, and particularly when we were on the couple of hunts that we went with them on. They experienced levels of stress that we would be aware of in our modern world. The difference is that they're able to manage that stress very effectively.
Can you give us a few examples of that stress?
Yeah, so the one example that really kind of sets this off is we were on the hunt and the dogs picked up a scent. They hunt with dogs. And so the dogs were converged on this small den. And there was a lot of commotion going on. The dogs are barking, the Hadza are screaming and shouting. And we understand that the dogs have caught the scent of a hyena, which for us is a pretty scary animal. So the Hadza are coming from one side. They're moving these massive boulders, tunneling into this den.
Towards the
live hyena. The dogs are in the main entrance going from one side. So you can imagine the hyena is probably pretty aggravated at that stage. The Hadza are literally reaching into the burrow to pull the hyena out. Now, I was stressed as just an observer of this. Yeah. So you can imagine that the adrenaline, the cortisol are coursing through these folks' veins, high stress, and yet immediately after the hunt is over, they light a fire to start preparing the animal to carry back to the camp. And they rest. They trade stories about the hunt and laugh and joke. And so it enables them to de-stress in the moment. Yeah. Whereas in our modern life, we constantly push through and move from one stressful event to the next without giving ourselves adequate rest.
Yeah. So that's very interesting, and that's very sensible. And as you said, we don't sit around the fire anymore. We don't relax anymore. It's always like high levels of stress, which turns into, in a lot of us, it turns into a chronic stress, which is super harmful for our health. So how can we deal better with stress?
Yeah, I think learning from what I observed when I was there, I think the importance is, and we talk about this in the book as well, is we tend to see stress as being highly negative. But the fact is that stress is what kept us alive for thousands of years, as long as it's not prolonged. So the example I gave is the stress response enabled these folks to become superhuman for a short period of time. But then they allowed themselves to de-stress, which is super important to get those stress hormones
out to
a balanced level. And so, stress is good if it's used as it was intended. The problem today is that we can't tell the difference between hunting for a hyena and an irate email from our boss, or bad traffic, or bad news on the TV. So we're constantly being bombarded by stress. And so how do we manage that stress? And this is something that we're actually developing a program on,
Yes.
to better manage your stress and build resilience, because stress can be used as a really important tool for our success, but if it's not managed properly, it can really damage our health. And one of the other things that I witnessed is in the evenings, again around the fire where they're eating, they have music, they have dance. It's an amazing thing to watch, and you feel the stress in your own body just evaporating.
Yeah, and probably burst of serotonin
So I think it's
into the system.
Yeah, I think it's
helping you connect.
it's connecting with other people. It's the food, it's eating with each other, it's trading those stories, and we just don't make time for that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So as you said, we are actually creating a course on this. We're very excited about that, and we talk about the different types of stress and how to deal with this with it better. It's actually coming out in the new year, so yay! Okay, so let's move on to the next driver. How do Hadza approach nutrition?
Yeah, nutrition was super interesting because, again, they don't think about it. They just live in the natural environment. And so basically what they can hunt or gather is what they eat. And so this concept of seasonality, where certain foods are available at certain times of the season, is what we evolved to deal with in terms of nutrition. So for example, when we were hunting, we came across these amazing nushibi berries, I think they're pronounced. They're these tiny orange berries with a large seed in them. So there's not a lot of berry, but it's an amazing taste. It's kind of sweet and sticky. And when they come across a nushibi bush, they eat all of it. They either eat it on spot, as the hunters do, or the women come out and gather these berries because they only last a very short period of time. They have no way of preserving them, so you eat when it's in season. In terms of the meat, certain animals are only available at certain times of the season, and then they migrate. So the Hadza move with the game, depending on seasonality. But sometimes certain types of animals are off the menu because they're simply not there. So it's a kind of a natural seasonality. Whereas today we have grocery stores that have strawberries all year round and any kind of meat you can possibly think of. Yeah. And so there is no seasonality.
And there's also very little local produce, or there is very little understanding of what the local produce is.
Correct.
But I think it's coming back. But it's really, I think it must be very fascinating to see how the seasonality is applied in real life by the Hadzas.
Yeah, I mean, again, they don't think about it. It's just the way their life is. The other amazing thing that I got to try, and it's a major part of their diet, is wild honey. Yeah. And so they spend a lot of time looking for honey, probably almost as much time looking for honey as they do meat. And so we came across a hive of wild stingless bees that have their hive inside the tree. So you literally have to cut into the tree to get at the honey. So again, it involves work to
so to get your carbs, just to translate it,
you got to work for your carbs.
You got to work for your carbs, and okay.
But when we finally got into the hive, I mean, this honey was the most amazing honey I've ever tasted, because it's fresh, it's unpasteurized, and it was mixed with some pollen, so a little bit of almost sour taste. And then there were a few bee eggs in there as well, so a bit of protein.
Oh,
and
poor baby bees.
The melange of taste was just phenomenal.
I wish you could have brought some back to us.
No, I ate it all.
No, of course you would. You would. Anyways, no, that's very interesting, and like I'm salivating as you're talking about, especially the honey. It must have been amazing. So, again, moving on. So Oh no, can we just, one more question about the nutrition, because I know you keep talking about this, so I think we need to share this, that you had something very special in terms of food. And again, I have to kind of set the scene for the audience. Jim is a meat and potato guy. He's Irish. So your palate has gone on a big adventure, if I may say so. What was that?
Well, so I have improved my palate over the years with your amazing cooking. But so this trip, besides the honey, I got to experience some organ meat from various types of animals while I was there. So I had 3 different types of liver. I had goat liver, I had hyena liver, and I had warthog. 2 of which we caught while we were hunting, so it was on the spot, because the organ meat doesn't keep in the heat, so they generally eat it when they catch whatever they catch. So I got to taste 3 types of liver.
How exciting!
Yeah,
how exciting!
And I wouldn't normally be a big liver fan myself, but I know how important it is from a health perspective. So it was interesting to be able to try some fresh liver.
Fascinating. And the good thing about liver is that it's a powerhouse. It's a nutritional powerhouse. So you got nutrients, vitamins, and it's amazing. And to have it fresh, wow. That's why you look so fresh and energetic and healthy after the trip. It's the liver. Okay, so to the next driver now. You moved a lot while you were with the Hadzas. You went on the hunt with them. Is there a Hadza fitness routine?
Oh, yes. Yes, there is. No, again, they have a natural gym. Their gym is in nature. They don't have to. They don't have to go to the gym.
Yeah.
In fact, as you know, I actually started training a few months before the trip.
Yeah, because Eric freaked you out.
Eric freaked me out.
That you're gonna run, you're
like
gonna
the
slow
equivalent
run
of a
for
marathon.
days.
Yeah.
So Jim started
we were training in the dunes a few months before the trip, and I have to say that the Hadza hunt is like it's an endurance event.
Yeah.
And it's not just flat surface, like they're going up and down hills, it's jagged rocks. You have these bushes that have thorns that can kill an elephant. So it is a physical event. And so, but the amazing thing which saved me was that it's not an all-out sprint for a marathon, because I still wouldn't have been able to keep up. Plus it was 28, 30 degrees. So it is a mix of fast bursts of energy, but most of it is kind of a quick-paced walk.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, is it like jogging all this time, or is it like walking and then jogging a little bit? It's
like interval training. So it's most of it you're moving pretty rapidly, like a fast walk or a jog. But then it's interspersed with a lot of kind of stop-start, because they're trying to pick up the trail. Groups may split up, so they're on different terrains. So you have these bursts of kind of all-out running.
But they're short.
Very short, very short. On the second day, we were out, and it's amazing how quickly you adapt to this hunting environment. Because the first day, I'm getting caught up on thorn bushes the whole time. And I'm trying to recognize, okay, that bush has the long thorns, that one has the hook thorns, that one doesn't have any thorns. By the second day, I had an experience where we got separated from the group, one of the groups that was tracking a warthog. And I heard commotion, which means they're on the trail. And so I start sprinting full out. And the amazing thing was that I was able to recognize, as I'm running, which bush had the thorns and which bush didn't. And the ironic thing is that, for whatever reason, you tend to have a bush with no thorns next to a bush with thorns.
So I
was able to lean into the bush with no thorns to get around the bush that had thorns. So I did, I don't know, it felt like a long run, but it was probably like 2.5, 3 minutes of all-out sprint because I wanted to get there in time.
With the
Ducking and weaving. I still ended up with scratches all over myself.
Yeah, but it's a full body workout basically. It's an interval training with high intensity bursts and using your core and arms.
And then so you're also, it's a mix of, you know, walking, running, jogging, climbing. I climbed a tree to get at the honey. And then you're carrying if you're successful, you're carrying
your weight
joints of meat back to the camp. So they are getting all 3 movement types that we talk about in Ready for Takeoff in their daily lives.
Yeah. So they're getting the cardio, they're getting the strength training,
and the flexibility and mobility. They're squatting.
Exactly.
They're twisting. They're turning.
That sounds absolutely fascinating. On to the 4th driver, sleep. What is the Hadza sleep schedule?
Yeah, so I think in terms of sleep and rest generally, again, they follow the natural rhythms of nature and life. And I mean, again, you know, we were there for a couple of days, but what we experienced was that their daily routine sets them up for a good night's sleep. And we always talk about your best night's sleep starts in the morning.
Yeah.
So they are up with the sun in the morning. They're getting a ton of sunlight into their eyes, which we know is important for resetting your circadian clock every day.
Yeah.
So 15, 20 minutes of sunlight minimum to reset that clock. So they're starting out.
Yeah.
They're starting out with, you know, that circadian clock ready to go. And then their whole day, between their mindset, you know, their ability to manage their stress, what they eat, when they eat, how they eat, and their movement patterns are all aligning those drivers to get excellent quality sleep at night. Now, I can't attest to how good their sleep is, but they have to be sleeping well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to function at the level that they do every single day. The energy, the awareness, everything depends on proper rest and proper sleep. What we did experience was being in the camp. Like, we were camped around the fire next to this baobab tree. And they stay up after the sun goes down, because they've got the fire and they're talking, trading stories, singing. They have this amazing instrument that they play, they dance. And the interesting thing is that the men have one fire and the ladies have their own fireplace with the kids. But they trade conversations between the fires. And some of the kids will come and they lay next to the fire with the men. So it's this just amazing community feeling. And then, so we were sleeping basically under the baobab tree. And so you look up and it's night and you see these black branches. And you can see the white flowers of the baobab tree. And then beyond that, it's the Milky Way.
Wow.
And so I think I get the best sleep that night ever. And then, of course, you're up at like 5 in the morning to go hunting with these folks. The second night, we slept out again, but it started raining heavily at about 2 o'clock in the morning, so we had to leg it to the tents, which was another
white
story.
People, they cannot do with a little bit of rain.
Couldn't handle the rain.
Couldn't handle the rain. So it's super exciting to the extent that we are planning our own trip to Tanzania with a small group of people who are curious about this closeness to nature and what it does. And really the Hadza way of living just confirms that one of the underlying theories that we talk about in the book, which is the evolutionary patterns that shaped us are still very deeply within us.
Yeah.
And the closer we can get to nature, the closer we can get to these natural rhythms, the happier, the healthier we will be. And of course, the happier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the other thing is that I've never seen so many smiling faces, you know,
Yeah.
The kids, these white teeth and bright eyes, and everybody is genuinely happy and healthy. And I mean, these people have very little in terms of material goods, which may say a lot about our modern world as well. So it's truly a life-changing experience where you can see how we were designed to live and the kind of contrast with how we live today. So I think it'd be great to have people to share that with.
That was truly amazing. Listen to this story and to listen to your story, and I'm sure I will be hearing more of these stories.
I'm sure you will.
Yes, and it's fascinating, and we always find nuances and details that we can work with, and it's very exciting. So thank you, Jim, for
thank you for
this
having me
on our podcast. And with this, we wrap up this episode, this special episode of Takeoff with Wellnesstory. And we hope that you found it insightful and entertaining at the same time. And we'll see you next time. This podcast is for informational purposes only and not a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult your doctor or a qualified expert for personalized guidance, and never disregard professional advice or delay seeking it because of something you heard on this podcast. Check us out on social media for exciting updates and extras, and follow the podcast so that you are on board as future episodes are released. Get ready for takeoff. Catch you in the next episode.